Julie Gabrielli. Wow. This is really, really fun. The last time I saw you was, well, I see you all the time in my head as I read you,
I know,
but
right?
was when we did a conversation together with Ben Wakeman. But we were focused on Ben. So I'm so
Yeah.
looking forward to focusing on you today. And I'm going to do a little intro for those who aren't familiar with Julie's work. You make me breathe a little deeper when I read you, even though some of your stuff is kind of intense, especially now, this serialized piece. But in general, there's this aura of helping me notice the world more tenderly. And your writing and your stories and your essays definitely remind us of the urgency of the climate crisis, but also to not forget about the beauty and the wonder that still lives in all of it, in every sunrise, in every heron's wingspan. You have an ability to hold both the grief and the awe together in your writing. So Julie is the author currently of a serialized novel called Flux that I've just been absorbed in, and I think you're nearing the finish line. And this
Yeah.
is a layered imaginative story that brings climate science into conversation with grief, yes, invention, helplessness, and of course, hope, and all the emotions that come in between all of that. So, and you also write nature essays and short fiction that sort of blur the lines between human and non human relationships. And those are just absolutely fascinating. Your Substack, Homecoming, is a gathering place for anyone who wants to step out of the center for a moment, to return to belonging, to find strength and awe and wonder, and to share in both the grief and the delight of being alive on this planet. So glad you're here, Julie.
Oh, it's such a delight. It's such a delight to be with you. And then a real honor when you invited me. I think I did a little happy dance. I was like, oh, I was hoping I'd get to talk to Kimberly again. I mean,
Oh,
I've admired your work for so long, and I, I'm thrilled that I finally got to read your memoir, even though I've been aware of it for a while, but I wasn't in on the serializing that you were doing, which is sad
mhm.
because like I was bugging you because I kept reading it and I was like leaving comments anyway, even though it's like a year later.
It was actually really
Like
sweet. I'd wake up and they'd be like 12 messages from Julie.
right. That's how you know somebody is binging your work. But just
Yeah.
to let everyone know, I don't know when you're releasing this, but I pre-ordered. I want the book too, so
Oh, thank you, Julie. Thank you so much. This
yeah.
is serializing is really special, and I want to talk with you
Mm,
about that too because there is a community building that happens, and it really feels a lot like someone is coming along for the ride as you're writing or as you're editing, and so um, we have so much to talk about today.
I know.
I want to
Okay, good.
begin because I personally I read so much of your work, but I don't know what first awakened you to the climate crisis. So much of your work is about cultivating hope for the planet. So where did this all begin and become something more personal for you?
Mm. Well, a long time ago,
Mhm.
right after grad school, I was living in Philly and I went to a Young Architects Forum for Earth Day. And that was back when I was a young architect.
Mhm.
And it was this guy from New York I'd never heard of called Bill McDonough, who then, during the next decade or so, got to be, he was on the cover of Time magazine. I mean, he just became kind of a rock star-ish, as much as an architect could be, but he wears a bow tie and he's like the heir to the Seagram's fortune. Like he's such a New York architect. But he was talking about um, architecture that is, first of all, he talked about how damaging our profession is, how much just like how much energy we use and how many materials and just like the wake we leave behind us of destruction whenever we build anything. But he had this really different way of seeing it with a much bigger context, and it was just very exciting because he was talking about um, our work in relationship to the living world. That how what everything that we do is interwoven with everything else.
Mhm.
And that we know nearly nothing about the effects and that our actions have on the world. So it was weirdly empowering because when you're young like that, people can tell you anything, and you'll be like, "Oh, I can make this better. Like, sign
Yeah.
me up."
Yeah.
But then I was an intern, so I didn't really do a lot. That became frustrating to me. Like I was like, well, I want to do it right now, but I had, like some wall sections to draw and some kitchen layouts to do for my
I'm
boss,
not going to save the
like
planet that way.
that's right. So it's been a long time.
Mm.
And I did finally reach a point in my career where I was just really at the end of my rope for a lot of personal reasons. It was kind of uh yeah, it's one of those life breakdowns where everything just is like terrible. And I ended up quitting my job even though I had a really great job. I was just like, I can't go in one more day. And it was mainly to do with you get to where you kind of have that inkling that, oh, this is a finite period of time that I'm here for, and I need to just do my thing now. And so I just jumped in with both feet. I had no idea what I was doing, but to be like a green architect, so
Wow.
I just like did a lot of networking and met people and kind of just never looked back.
Wow. So you literally jumped ship and
Yeah.
created this whole new avenue for your architecture. And is that, I know you teach at university, is that also what you teach green architecture now?
Yeah, because when I kind of walked away, it was right in the middle of all this. This may be TMI, but it was like years of dealing with infertility and
Mm,
getting in the medical industrial complex and all of that junk.
good.
Um, so that's why I quit my job. It was one of those things too where I just like I can't do it anymore. My husband just was he supported me. I didn't have any prospects. I wasn't looking. And then like 2 days later I got a letter from University of Tennessee saying, "Oh, you want to come teach with us for half a semester?" These kind of things that happen. Um, and then I did that, and then I pitched to. I had been teaching at Maryland off and on in the '90s, but I pitched to my old friend who was the director of the program. I want to come teach a sustainable design studio, which nobody even knew like what that was. And he's like, "Sure, okay, come on." And while you're at it, can you organize a forum, where you bring in experts from our profession that talk about this stuff? So I did that, and that was the start of it. So it's
Wow.
weird. Like I told you, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was learning a lot from
Yeah.
other people. I was reading a ton. And so that's how I learn is by teaching. So
Mm-hmm.
sign me up, and we all just kind of mucked around in it together for a while. And now it's kind of like what everyone it's not because of me, but it's easier now because everyone expects that, in
Yeah. I
our
mean, it sounds
profession.
like you were a pioneer
Yeah,
in this movement. My mom used to always say, "We teach what we most need to learn." She always
exactly.
said that in context of being a psychotherapist because she's like, "Oh my God, I'm
Oh,
just so messed up in my head. I need to figure it
right.
out."
Right, right. Well, and that's why we write too, right? Like we write to find out what we think.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's all kind of related.
So your
Yeah.
character, Grace Evans in Flux, I'm going to jump right into your serialized piece because I want people
Oh,
to
please do.
get in there. Um, I'm suspicious that there's a lot of you in Grace, and I just she's driven, she's brilliant, she's stubborn, she's sensitive, definitely a little self-destructive at times. What parts of yourself, and also maybe other people you've known, have found their way into her, or am I totally wrong and she has nothing to do with
Oh God. It's funny. I'm in my writing workshop is there's four of us, and the three of them are writing memoir. One of them is also writing fiction and memoir, but there's so much overlap, isn't there? I mean, now like
you?
I just finished The Emperor of Gladness, and that I was like, oh, I wonder if this is from his life. Like actually didn't read about it before I read the book,
Yeah,
and my
I just
friend had
finished
like,
that.
yeah, oh, it's so good.
It's so
Well, she went and saw him speak, and yeah, I mean it's auto fiction, right?
good.
So, but I was saying when you sent me this question, I was like squirming because it reminded me at one time I read an interview Barbara Kingsolver did, and someone asked her a similar thing, and she's like, "Oh, no, 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 I have more of an imagination than that. I don't base my characters on anyone." I was like,
Huh.
"Okay, girl." Yeah, you do you.
I don't know how that's
I mean,
possible.
I know. I love the sort of Jungian interpretation of dreams. I have a group with a couple friends, and we meet every month, and it's just fun to think that everyone in your dreams is you. And it's like a movie about you, and mostly about parts of you that you actually didn't even know were in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm fascinated by archetypes and
Mm-hmm.
tarot and astrology. Not astrology as much, just because I don't know much about it, but
Yeah.
um, I do my own experiences for characters and situations, and
Yeah.
I have my husband reading along, although he doesn't always talk to me about the chapters. So sometimes I'll go, "What chapter are you on, anyhow?" And be like, chapter 12." Or like, okay, I just published chapter 18. uh, it's fine. But he recognizes details sometimes, like
Yeah.
there's a scene where Ned wears this apron right while he's cooking, and it's hail to the chef. It's like a fake presidential seal,
Yeah.
and that was my dad's apron.
Oh, that's so
And I
lovely.
have it, and Peter wears it now, so he was like, yeah, you had the apron in the scene.
Yeah. I think there's something too about acknowledging the interconnectedness, the porosity of our being.
Right.
We don't live in isolation. And so even if you're writing about a different character, we're leaky. And parts of ourselves are going to be leaking out and into other characters, and we learn from them as they are learning from us. And I like that acknowledgement of our interconnectedness.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, um I guess it's like collage, like that. So I'm not as good at the discipline of like carrying a little notebook around with me, but I've done exercises where you go to like the farmer's market and you just watch somebody and write down like what they're wearing and what their gestures are like, and like it's just fun.
Mhm.
I don't think it's like vampiric, or I think it's people are fascinating. They
Yeah,
just are. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, well, you have such a curious mind too. I can tell just even the way you comment, the way you write. I even some of that ambitious energy you talked about when you were younger. I would
Oh.
imagine you maybe thought you could fix the planet by doing the architecture, and which is a lot like Grace in your book, where it's like everything
Right.
can be solved.
I'm a
So
little
what is
behind schedule, Kimberly. I'm a little
it?
behind schedule, but I will get there. It'll all be fixed by the time I go.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously we know that we can't. Here I am from the unfixed realm. We can't fix ourselves, or we can try. We are trying to fix the planet, and none of this disregards the desire to, and the action that we must put into making things better.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there has to be some awareness that we are living in flux. We are unfixed. We are unstable. So, what does it mean to you now to live and write from that awareness?
It's really hard. It's heartbreaking. I
Yeah.
mean, I've struggled with it for so long. I've gone through all these phases, right? I did have that early blush of, wow, this is so cool. Sign me up. We're going to get there in 5 or 10 years, like at the most,
Mm,
right? And it feels like the more awareness people have, the worse everything's getting. And I think you just have to have, or I'm talking to myself, just that, like make a bigger circle around it all, because I don't see enough. I don't see that bigger picture. I get too focused on doing what architects do, which is design and build things and act and be the expert. And I have the solutions, and I can fix
mm,
things, or I can at least remodel something, make it a little nicer. And that's satisfying. Um, but I had the book began, so originally I was going to write about, because architecture just wasn't the medium. I mean, I kind of had this sense, all right, I read a lot and I was sort of going to workshops and everything, like people, what does it look like for a culture to live with that understanding, and from that understanding that we're a part of it all, that we have healthy relationships with our more than human kin. And I worked on that for a lot while because I thought, okay, like I'm going to write stories that show people living that way. Like, how cool would that be? And then everyone would want to just like sign up for that.
Mm.
Um, and then I realized one time, well, it never occurred to me until, oh yeah, I'm trying to write utopia. So I went ahead and read Thomas More. I read Huxley. I was like, wow, these are kind of boring because good storytelling depicts change
Yeah.
and struggle and conflict. And if a place is already perfect, nothing needs to change. That's just like ho hum.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
the story had to change too. And in the meantime, like I kept trying to quit architecture and because it was frustrating to me. The more I thought about it, the more I thought, first of all, not enough people were on board with it, in my opinion. And certainly clients, they were like, well, is it going to save me money? Or if it's
Oh.
going to cost more, I don't want to do it, kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, and it's a huge industry with just like a lot of inertia, right? And then one day I came across this essay by Eudora Welty called Must the Novelist Crusade? And she just completely goes in there with like, look, if you want to like do that, write editorials. That is not what novels are for.
Mm.
Novels are there to raise questions and not answer them.
Mm.
And
Wow.
so that really helped me because I thought if I can raise juicy questions, right? If I can play the expert over here by teaching and scratch that itch.
Yeah.
But then it's also for me, like I love inspiring younger, stronger, more idealistic people, right, to carry the torch. But I also don't sugarcoat it anymore. I don't tell them that we can fix it all, right? I just tell them these are the questions that I suggest asking.
Yeah. And in a way, then you're building, you're helping us build tolerance to be uncomfortable too, which I think
Yeah.
is a necessary part of being human. And I think if we're always wrapping things up with a nice hallmark answer, we don't. We're sort of dismissing the emotional arc that we need to have as humans, and we're
Hmm.
kind of saying, "Oh, you have to get here right away." And so there is in your writing a lot of that. You acknowledge the heaviness in Flux, the serialized piece, but also in all of your work. I feel the heaviness, and it doesn't feel um, like despair. It feels like you're saying, "Let's hold this together."
It's right. And we can, like we're strong enough, but together is the critical piece of that, right? Like I did so much of this on my own. Like I thought, okay, I have to work on me. And I really like I isolated from my husband, from my family, from I like it was all just like and I guess that's necessary too as part of the heroine's journey, like you're going into the underground or the
Mm.
underworld. But
Yeah.
I was thinking about that, like the questions, right? So it occurred to me as I was editing chapter 18, the question came up a bunch where Grace just asked herself, what now? And I was like, oh, I want to leave that in repetitively because
Mm.
like knowing what we know about the state of things and facing the reality of the world around us and how much we love it and how much we grieve it, what else can we do but ask that? Like,
Yeah.
how then shall we
Yeah.
live? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Because there is tomorrow.
mhm.
So what now?
And
Is
there
it?
are children.
And there are
Right.
children. Yeah. And
Yeah.
wonder and hope have to be part of that.
Yeah.
Is that something that you experience in the like? Is there room for that in the scientific community? This wonder and hope and the what
Um,
now?
Yeah, I want to get into that because I think that's such a rich question. But I just want to say one other thing is that I have benefited so much from what you say about living unfixed, both
Mm,
in your essays and in your memoir, that and it's such a universal theme, like our each of our struggles is different and it's not like the suffering Olympics or anything, like I don't
mm,
think I've had it as bad as most people, but we've all
mm,
had something, but it makes me think of that, how life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us.
yeah.
Um, and that's like I just think you embody that with such grace and
Mm,
generosity. So I'm
mm.
you know.
Thank you. It took a long time, and I was certainly coming out of it from being a perfectionist and feeling like everything had an answer.
Yeah.
And it, to me, this place of acknowledging that discomfort is part of it and that
Hmm.
pain is part of it, and all, it like took my nervous system down a notch to be like, oh, this is, I don't know, somehow it was like hardwired in that like I wouldn't survive if there was something bad or discomfort or pain. Like my brain would be like, no, that's bad, we got to get rid of it. And now it's like, it's not, it's okay. It's really okay.
What's what now?
Yeah, what now? Yeah.
Yeah. But on the subject of science, I worked on a book for a while, and then I was like, well, my main character is a climate scientist. See, maybe I should talk to some climate scientists for this book because I'm not a journalist. I mean, I mostly hang out with architects and other
Yeah.
kinds of people. So,
Yeah.
that was such a fun summer, and I just like had all these phone calls with these people, and
Wow.
the sort of baseline was that they, of course, they all cared deeply about their work and about the climate. And this one geologist, he had such a deep and sort of long understanding of time. It kind of blew my mind. I mean, think about, geology. Um, and it just calmed me to hear him talk about that because he knew like that one human lifetime is like a speck of dust,
Mm.
but in a good way.
Is he the guy that
um,
does that has the app actually where you can do the walk of you?
oh, no, that's Stephen. What's his name? I did that walk with him.
Did you?
I was
Oh.
yes. Oh my
Mm.
God. I wish now I'm feeling bad that I can't remember his last name, but it
Yeah.
was incredible.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I found this website called This Is How You Feel. No, Is This How You Feel? And it was about 10 years ago. I found this, and it's these people asked the world's leading climate scientists about the emotional toll of their work.
Mm.
And they had them write a handwritten letter and take a picture of it and put it on social media. And now they're all on this website, and they updated it in 2020. And so that was my first peek at, oh, yeah, scientists are people too, you know? Because I've
Mm.
always thought of science as being so objective, and it has these, the scientific method, and you got to do things
Yeah.
a certain way. And one of my closest writing friends is here on Substack, Mary Beth Rue Hicks.
Mm-hmm.
She's one of my writing group buddies. She's a biologist and working on her memoir. And that goes right into the wonder and the hope and sort of challenging that outdated, damaging insistence on objectivity. Because obviously, we're always in whatever system we're studying, and we can do harm even when we don't want to. And there's a really heartbreaking scene in her that she opens her book with, but I'm not going to give it away. But
Ah, darn
she's
it.
also a great reality checker. Like I'll send her, I'll be like, okay, what kind of equipment would Grace buy for her lab? She got all this
Yeah.
money. Like, what's she gonna buy? So Mary Beth's like, okay, she get this and she get that, and
Wow.
these are the catalogs that she would look at. It's really
See,
funny.
I kind of thought maybe you were a closet scientist because your research is so good in this book that
Mm-mm.
I just assumed that like either you had a previous career as this because it's so believable. I'm amazed that this is all just your research.
I'm glad to hear that. I love research. In fact,
Mhm.
that is my go-to procrastination thing when I'm writing. And it took me years to take most of it out.
Mm.
So I think I'm learning, like on the next one, I don't think I would do quite as much. I'm better at it. Like when I do the short stories, I can just do a little research for like an hour, and then that's enough. I'll just riff on that. So I don't have
Mhm.
to worry about being authentic. Or I think the thoroughness came from my career as an architect. Like I wanted to make sure there's a lot of liability in what we do, so you got
Yeah.
to get it right. Um but I came to this through this project, probably a little bit through work, but mostly through writing, is that I think my whole purpose on this earth is to bridge or to be a translator between reason, like the left brain, and emotion, the right brain.
Mm.
And that's partly because I was raised so unbalanced toward reason and rationality, and even to like absolutely suppress and mistrust emotion and to
Yeah.
try to deny it. So it
Yeah.
completely disconnected from my body and all that stuff. So um, I thought something was wrong with me until I realized, oh, that's actually our culture.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's very, and I'm going to say this word, but I mean it as an energy. It's very masculine. It's very
Hmm.
control, top down, hierarchy driven, etc.
Yeah.
And um, I really had a hard time being a woman, like not
Mm.
in in a sexuality way, but in a second class citizen way. Like I didn't like that, and
Mm.
I still don't like it. Now
Yeah.
I rail about the patriarchy a little too much. Like I have a son and a husband, and our dog is a guy too. So
Oh
like it's
wow. So
like,
you're surrounded by men, but I'm
but
sure they
they're
carry.
wonderful. They're just
Yeah.
not like, they're not stereotypical. But and they get on
Yeah.
my case a little when I get too ranty. but um,
So is it
but
through your writing
yeah.
that you've kind of been able to bring some of that feminine quality in, or where has that been? How did you plant those seeds?
I think writing is like was therapeutic in that sense, as is journaling. But honestly, I think it was just like I got tired of hiding. It
Mm.
was not good for my relationships. I was not really showing up authentically. It is super stressful, right, to go out in the world and have to sort of take care how you show up.
Yeah.
I still do that a little bit at school, but I feel like I came out of the closet of just hiding that I'm an intuitive, weird mystic, like, and I
Mm.
do, not only do I hug trees, like I actually talk to them and, all the things.
Yeah.
And that is, you don't go and do a meeting with a bunch of engineers and clients and contractors and start talking that way. You just, you can't. And that's kind of fun too. Like I think part of it is just being older, and it's just kind of an effort attitude, like
Yeah.
I really don't care what people think of me as much as I used to. And that's pretty
I,
nice.
I'm so glad that that part of you was preserved all along while you were kind of growing up in more of these um, traditional ways of being and non-emotional. Like there was something still really alive. I feel that in Grace for sure. There is something
Hmm.
still very
Good.
alive, and it's like, oh, I just can't wait for it to come out.
It's gonna come out. It's
But
gonna
yeah,
come out.
yeah, you and your writing often kind of lean into that like decentralizing of humans. You actually, I know you wrote some stories and were encouraging other people too to make the protagonist non-human. And oh, that's just, I mean, I could read novels just based on that theme.
Hmm.
So tell me a little bit more about empathizing with characters that are non-human and kind of the importance of that in our culture.
Yeah, it's a pretty recent project, and it's probably part of this whole coming out, right? Like to lead with that, because it's weird.
Mm.
But my husband is not like this. Like he doesn't like fantasy or any magic realism. He doesn't enjoy that too much. So he's
Mhm.
a great person to be with, day to day. Like he's kind of like my stand-in for like the world out there. I don't
Mhm.
try to win him over anymore. Like I used to be like, oh, my life would be so much easier if he was more supportive or if he was like me. But I actually think it's good because he's
Yeah.
so grounding. but
Yeah.
but I, Barbara, who is it? Braiding Sweetgrass lady. What?
Oh, Kimmerer, Robin Wall Kimmerer.
Yeah, Robin Wall Kimmerer. Gosh,
Yeah.
I almost, yeah. Um, she teaches us that that humans are actually like the human beings are the little brothers and sisters of creation. We came along
Yeah.
last. And
Yeah.
so I think that that means we have a lot to learn. I mean, I'm not the only one who thinks that. All these sort of oral place-based cultures, they've known this, they still know this, they never stopped knowing this. We're just one little strand in the web of life. So I thought it would be really fun and interesting to just try to work from that. I've had these encounters with trees and moss and snails and wind and weather that have shown me nothing but curiosity and love. Like
Mm.
I feel small and humble, but also just like welcomed. There's no like you never write, you never call. The resentment doesn't exist.
Yeah.
There's also like a lack of they're not that worried. They don't really care. Like a tree could take you or leave you, I feel like.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
something kind of nice about that. It's almost a neutrality, but it's also just suffused with love. I don't really know how else to describe it.
That is really well said. There is it's both. There is this deep, deep, deep bond, and there's sort of an ambivalence or
Yeah.
is that the right word?
Mm,
Yeah. Like
maybe,
I was
yeah.
telling you about the tree that the huge limb that just fell, and it fell
Yeah,
on
right.
top of one of my favorite witch hazels and completely destroyed it. And
Yeah.
I'm there like trying to prop all the limbs back up, even though there's like 6-inch splits all the way down the witch hazel. And my husband's just
Oh.
shaking his head, like, "Why are you even trying to save this?" And I'm like, I'm sorry." And I know it's like, just let me go to deep, put me in the debris pile, let me decay. And I'm, having this emotional connection with it, but it's both.
Right. Yeah. Well, we're at our old house in Baltimore. My son was little. He was probably like 7 or 8, and our neighbor across the street had to take down this absolutely magnificent beech tree in her front yard. And you know,
Mm,
beech trees, like their limbs, they I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Like, so the tree people were in the street with the crane and everything, and the limbs, they had to cut parts of it, and it looked like the leg of an elephant or a
oh,
giant woman's torso, or like there were these
yeah.
parts of this tree, and I saw that and I just like burst into tears because that was
Oh,
an amazing tree, the way it, like, I don't know, fanned arced over the street and everything. So my son at that point, he was in this like phase where he liked drawing pictures of trees, beautiful little like pencil drawings of trees. So we made a card for her and sent her a condolence card for this tree. And
that's
she's like,
awesome.
oh, that's nice. It had to come down, whatever.
Oh, I love
But
that.
yeah,
And
whatever. But there are some, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
it's
Yep.
it's both. It's both. We can have these sentimental, and I don't want to completely. I mean, we can't anthropomorphize and say that they're feeling the same thing, but I do think that there are responses. There
Mm,
there is a relating that's
yeah,
happening.
there absolutely. And I was going to mention, you mentioned reading, wanting to read stories that, that decenter humans. There's a short story collection. Do you know this? It's called What We Fed to the Manticore.
No.
That's one of the story titles. It's by Talia Lakshmi Kaluri. It's so good, and every story is from the point
Wow.
of view of a different animal. Um, and some I loved more than others, but there's a couple that just blew me away. And
Whoa.
yeah, and then Nina Schuler, Schuyler, I'm not sure how to
Yeah,
pronounce her
yeah.
name, but
I interviewed her
her book,
about
yeah,
what was her
in
book's
this
title?
in this ravishing world.
Yes.
It's so good. So, like in that one, there are stories with people, and then at the end of each story, Gaia weighs in on the
Hmm.
characters and their struggles, and she kind of puts everything in more of a big picture perspective, which I like. I like that.
Yeah, she did a
Um,
beautiful job with that one.
yeah,
I don't if you maybe missed that, but we I did an interview with her about a year ago with that book, and
yeah, I think I did see that. Yeah,
yeah,
she's great.
it's really really fun to. There's not a lot of you. There's not a lot. I wish
I
there
know,
were
I
more.
know. Yeah, she was on my like I just do a written interview series, but she came on that too. Around that same time, like when she was kind of promoting the book.
Yeah.
Um, one other book I want to mention is this guy Henry Hoke wrote a book called Open Throat, and that is a novel. It's short, but
Uh-huh.
it's narrated by a non-binary mountain lion
Oh,
roaming the hills of LA. And it
what?
is, oh, I as soon as I finished it, I started it again. It is an amazing, amazing book. I love it.
Oh,
Yeah,
this is so fun.
yeah,
Wow. I love okay, I've got my notes here. Thank you for
yeah.
that.
Open Throat.
So, speaking of wonderful things to read, do you happen, and I can read it if you don't have it, but when your book, Grace, your main character, wrote a letter to the earth, and I just, and there's so much innocence in this. And I think all of us can relate to that innocence and sort of the longing to hold on to that. Do you have that
Hmm.
open? Are you able to read that?
Yes, I
Okay, good,
do.
good, good,
I almost
good.
want to preface it with a story
Please
about
do.
how I wrote it, because originally it was written as a rant. I had this thought, what if the earth was just really angry with us and kind of like wrote about don't keep drilling into me, don't keep doing this and that. So it was quite dark.
Mm.
And and then I was trying to tone it down. And it was in my writing group that we kind of workshopped it and said, what would happen if, I think it was Kelsey who said, I think I see this in like a younger version of Grace's voice. So it's just
Mm.
a good illustration of that. It takes a village. It's not just,
Yeah. Yeah, and but
so.
I think sometimes even that process of going through the rage is necessary to really
Mhm.
give the potency to what I feel in what you ended up with too.
Right, right.
So
Okay, so here goes. I almost want to read it in that little girl voice, but I'm
you
not
can
sure
do
I
it
can do that.
however you want.
Yeah. Dear Earth, I could praise your sunrises or sunsets. I could write that I love to count fireflies rising from the warm grass. I never trap them in jars. That's cruel. I could describe the sticky sweet juice of peaches, or the way a pine forest smells after rain. But today I'll say, I see you. People usually see only each other, but I see you. It's sad when bulldozers push trees over to clear land for more houses. They don't have to do that. Most people are fine with a few trees in their yard. I'm sorry people divide you up with fences. I'm glad the deer can jump. I'm sorry they capture your whales and dolphins and make them do tricks for people. They're all amazing. They deserve to swim free. I'm sorry they drill oil wells or even water wells. That must hurt. Ms. Simons told us oil is what the dinosaurs became and the plants from back then, and it's all meant to stay down there because it's poisonous. Sorry, hope that doesn't hurt your feelings. We all have secrets, I guess.
Hmm. Oh, she's such a
Ugh.
sensitive young little girl. I mean, it brings tears to
Yeah.
my eyes just to feel that
Oh.
the way she's apologizing, but also kind of really getting into the skin of the earth and how much it must hurt.
Mm. And praising, like, children are just so unself-conscious about this stuff. And we were talking earlier about sort of the awkwardness of being oneself, and
Mm.
it's that, you feel a little bit, or I feel a little bit Pollyanna when I was like, oh, look at the clouds right now. They're so amazing. It's like,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, I was just
Yeah, but
reading this headline, like,
I think when we
uh,
do it, it inspires other people, or at least stops them in their tracks to, get out of their heads for a second and go, "Oh, wow, yeah, you're right. Look at that." I
they
mean,
are pretty great.
we need that more.
Yeah,
I mean, what
yeah.
else? What are other ways for us to get our innocence back? Because I think we've all, on to some level, have lost that childlike wonder.
Oh, well, I mean, going outside is a good way to do it, right?
Mhm.
Just sitting and being and, watching the sunset, watching the sunrise, watching the moon. And you can do any of those things anywhere, right? You can do that from a balcony in New York City. Um, I just, I've had the great fortune to be able to go to some wild places, and then, that again, like there's just so much life there, and it's not there for me, but it's there for itself, and it's fine with me being there, and it's such a different feeling,
Mm.
the aliveness in a forest, right,
Yeah,
or out on the water. It's magical.
yeah. You have, I think, already a natural ability to let that wonder carry you. I mean, I'm assuming that because of how I read you. Um, I think a lot of people, though, even when they're like observing a beautiful sunset, they're still caught in the analysis, the stories that accompany it, whatever that is. And I think some of
Mhm.
that innocence comes back by dropping the stories. If we can, what Renee Eli talks about a lot in her Substack, the
Mm-mm. Yeah,
direct
yeah,
experiencing,
it's great.
bypassing the chatter.
Yeah. Yeah, I love her. And I never knew about her except then finding her on Substack too. Yep.
Hmm.
I wanted to ask you, because thinking about our entanglement with nature, the images and metaphors that you explore in your memoir, um, water, waves, storms, um, your birth father lost to the lake, you sitting on the sandy bottom of your childhood lake, and just water and the it made me think of this line. Do you know this poem, She Told Me the Earth Loves Us? It's by
Hmm.
Anne Haven McDonald. There's a segment in there that goes like this. Today I learned that trees can't sleep with our lights on, that they knit a forest in their language, their feelings. This is not a metaphor.
Wow. Oh, will you send that whole poem to me?
Yeah, it's
Wow.
fantastic. It's in a book about oh, I can't remember the name of the book, but it's a collection of art and writing about that's all by women, and it's about hope for in the climate crisis.
Hmm.
All we can save, I think, is what it's called.
Hmm.
And that's in there. But this is not a metaphor. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I when I go out in these places, I always think I'm not looking for metaphors. Metaphors are a wonderful tool, don't get me wrong, but it's a it's a left brain thing too. I mean,
Hmm.
it can come intuitively, but it is a craft item, right? So like it feels separating, it feels a little bit distancing.
Yeah.
So I love that this is not a metaphor. Like it's
Yeah.
not it's not out there for us to borrow for our art. I mean, it
Yeah.
is, but it also is.
Well, it's like, I think the metaphor comes after, where it's like, okay, we're humans and we need to make meaning. The metaphor helps us bridge the meaning. But
Hmm.
like in my memoir, all that water, that the water is not a metaphor. And yet, looking back and writing this memoir, I'm like, there are so many themes of water throughout
Hmm.
my life and all the way through to this diagnosis where it feels like I'm on water all the time, that it makes me think, what is it about water that my life needs to learn? What is the lesson?
Mm,
What is the lesson of water?
right.
You know?
Oh, it's so good.
So
Yeah.
I'll tell you something funny, weird. I have in my astrology chart, and this is something that just occurred to me like a couple months ago. My parents did it when I was a child, our whole like charts, but I never really paid much attention to it. I have no fixed signs in my entire chart. And here I have
Whoa.
none, no fixed, nothing is fixed, like not even the outer planets. And here I have this whole thing called unfixed. I'm like, what?
That's wild. That is
Isn't that
wild.
weird?
You
Like,
can't make that stuff
okay,
up.
I guess there's something I'm supposed to learn about, uncertainty.
See, I think you're learning it. I was going to say you've learned it, but that's not possible.
Yeah.
But at least now you're conscious that you're learning it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're helping us learn it too, which is nice.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to come back to you.
Okay.
So there's just, oh my God, there's so many different places I want to take this, but let's come back to sort of this wonder, this childlike innocence, and then becoming an adult, and finding your career and navigating your way through that. Tell me what you're learning, as you probably have had to trade parts of yourself away or hide parts of yourself as you navigate the systems that are a little bit more, um, I don't even want to say patriarchal, but just,
Destructive,
yeah.
damaging.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so hard, so hard. This made me think of um, when I read this question, that after the Exxon Valdez oil spill, I was just wrecked by it, but also by the certainty that I caused it.
Yeah.
My house is heated with methane. My car
Mm,
at the time was fueled with gasoline, and I couldn't shake that, just that utter grief of knowing that I'm complicit. And
mhm,
I wanted off. I wanted off the bus. Like I've always been fascinated by people who like just sort of quit, and that, like Paul Kingsnorth, he's on his homestead, homeschooling his kids and like cutting his
mhm.
brush with a scythe and all that stuff. But I can't, like, so I've gotten to be a little more, you know, I think I've gotten to accept that this is the time that I chose to be incarnated in, and it's a fascinating time of this both and, right? So we can see how we can see examples of living better, and
Mm,
we can even see how we could maybe even sort of like hybrid those with some technology, but we're so far from getting off this bus, right? I mean, the bus is just
mm.
going, and it's like the people, they're doubling down out there on this stuff, like they're closing the EPA, and they're gonna like drill in northern Alaska or whatever. I mean, not to be too much of a downer, but so I feel like all of us really like that awareness of that we're trapped in this system that we
Mm.
know is doing great harm, and we don't want to be in it.
Yeah,
And we have
and
to
yet we
try to
are.
repair it. We have to try to repair it from the inside, maybe. And it made me think of that scene in Apollo 13 where they just sort of dump everything out on the table and they're like, all right, let's make something work here.
Mm.
It's so messy. That's the thing about someone like who's attracted to the field like architecture is you're doing a lot of envisioning. You're doing a lot of like in a perfect world, this. And so you draw these things and but the reality of it, the process of actually building anything is incredibly messy and disappointing. And, like I said, there's a lot of liability. In the end, you end up with something really nice,
Hmm.
ideally. That and even better, that would last for a long, 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 long time, and people would have, like uplifting experiences in it. But we're like that's our job, not job, that's our condition, right?
Yeah.
Nothing can be perfect.
Yeah.
um so I don't know if that answers the question
Yeah.
actually, but
Well, I'm thinking that, you talk about like putting everything out on the table and just allowing that mess to be there and knowing that that mess is necessary, and that's how you pull all the pieces together. That's a very feminine to me. We're going back
mm,
into these like feminine masculine thing, but I mean, and I'm not
yeah,
talking about gender here.
right.
But and you said earlier in our conversation that you even like didn't like being a woman in this male dominated
Mm-mm.
world. Has that changed for you? Like how do you see yourself as a woman in your career and the way that it is shaping you now
Hmm. Yeah,
professionally?
it's kind of a fraught thing. I would say it's a work in progress.
Mm.
It really helps, like I have started about 10 years ago co-leading these retreats in the woods that are like kind of nature soul retreats that are, if you know Animas Valley Institute, they do a lot of that work. And I
Yeah.
went to one of their retreats and met someone from Maryland there. And I kind of got hooked into this group of people, and they were wonderful. So we would do those a couple times a year. And one of the women, Lindsay McLaughlin, she's sort of in charge, or has been in charge of that place. And she said, "Oh, we do these heroines journey retreats in the spring. Why don't you come co-lead that with me and this other woman?" And I'm like,
Mm.
oh, I felt so cringy. Like I was like, oh, I'm the last person you want doing this, because like I have such ambivalence about being a woman.
Yeah, yeah.
But in the end, I mean, I did do it, and it's helped me. I did feel a little bit like an imposter
Huh.
at first, um, but as I said, it's a work in progress. But I
Yeah.
would say, a little background, my undergrad class in architecture school was 50% women. And they made a big deal about that on the first day because I was like not typical. And I just looked up this statistic that of the 100 top architecture or largest architecture firms, 21% of women have high ranking jobs. So,
Wow.
and we leave the profession or take sort of lower status jobs in the profession for all the same reasons that women do in all the other professions, right? So we don't
Mm.
have to get into that. But
Mm.
I always liked working with men. Like, where you stand with them. And that was kind of how I felt about it. Women, I just like, I did have female friends, but I don't know. They're just, men are just more like blunt, and I
Mhm.
don't know, that kind of worked for me.
Yeah,
But then
yeah.
I would notice like I would be in this big meeting, big project meeting, and then I'd be like, oh, huh. I'm the only woman in this room. um, so, but everyone was respectful, you know.
Yeah.
So I want to say, like, for grace, because I don't think architecture, it was certainly not. I did have one boss who, okay, yeah, it was sexual harassment. I didn't
Mm,
even know what that was because it was very early on, it was in the late 80s, I'm gonna say, which, don't do the math, please. But I didn't know what it was. And when Me Too came along, I was like, huh, I guess, yeah, I guess that happened.
wow.
It was
Wow.
awful.
Yeah.
um, but grace. So I researched women in science, and I followed a lot of academic scientists on Twitter in the old days, and they really, I mean, the stuff they were reporting about just what their lives were like was just shocking. I
Mm,
found this film called Picture a Scientist, which is about these women. It followed a bunch of different women and their stories, and uh, again, just like, wow.
well,
So yeah.
yeah, you even Grace jokes with her assistant Barbara. She's like, the way I see it, there are two categories of men: assholes and colleagues.
Right,
So,
right.
so in your
Yeah, and
research,
by
you
this point,
found a lot of those
yeah,
assholes.
yeah. I mean, we're talking like sexual predators, you know, like,
Oh
I
God.
won't, I won't be your advisor, or I won't help you advance unless you do this and this and this. And
Oh
um,
God.
there was this glaciologist, a famous guy down in Antarctica, that once this all came to light, they actually renamed the glacier that they had named after him. So that was like, yeah, like
Wow,
they
that's
took it, yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
there was some retribution. So
Yeah.
that's good.
Good redemption.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It can happen.
Oh my God.
Um,
So when you went on these walks, co-led these retreats, what sort of qualities, you said it's a work in progress, but what qualities do you feel like you're kind of bringing back in specifically that might also be essential to the climate change field?
yeah, yeah. The main thing I'm learning from these women is that community is everything.
Mm,
We can't do this alone. We shouldn't do this alone. We're not meant to be isolated that way. But so I just thought about these traits like empathy, relationship, humility, kindness,
mm,
curiosity, and trusting emotions, like all emotions. Just trusting, being in the body, being receptive, and allowing. That's a hard one. It's just,
mm.
things are happening. I'll tell you where there's no choice is like when I'm on a sailboat and there's a massive storm that comes up.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
okay, I'm so glad my husband is at the helm because he's very calm under pressure like that, and he knows how to steer and those things. And then I'm just there like reciting poetry to myself, going, "Wow, I'm impressed by you right now. This is cool. You're overdoing it, but okay. I'm gonna say this poem, and I'm just gonna allow. I'm not gonna fight it."
Hmm.
Being terrified is a great gateway to a mystical experience, I will
Yeah,
say.
I love that quote. Oh my God, that should be a t-shirt, Julie.
I mean, terrified.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
oh my God. Okay, I want to make sure I want to talk two more questions before we wrap up here. And one of
Okay.
my favorite pieces that you've written, I've read it 3 times now. It's just um, wonderful. And so I'm going to link it so everyone can read it. It's called Shapeshifting, and it's set in the Marcellus. Am I pronouncing that right?
Hmm.
Marcellus Shale
Marcellus.
fracking region in Pennsylvania. And it carries some overlapping themes with Flux, as all of your pieces do. But there's just such gorgeous prose, and there's a human heron exchange where sometimes I'm not even sure. I mean, I know who's who, but there's definitely a porosity. I want to go back to that word, like
Hmm.
something happening between the two of them. So,
Right.
and there's a human longing in it to be wild again. That to
Hmm.
me is very, I feel that one. It makes my chest vibrate. Hank is the main character, and you write, he can't look away. He falls awestruck into the bird's fierce strangeness, its pure, wild belonging. His chest aches with a homesickness he doesn't recognize. I want to hear from you a time in your own life when that longing was alive and when those boundaries between the non-human and human world were sort of blurring as they do in this story.
Mm. Oh, thank you for asking that. I
Mhm.
really appreciate your making that connection too, because I wrote those stories after finishing my MFA, and I was like really discouraged by the novel or about the novel. Um, so I just wanted to practice writing and get better at revision and above all, go a little wild. um, Years ago, I heard like a podcast with a writing teacher who said he always talks to his students to says, "Make it weirder, make it weirder." So I am doing that.
I love that.
And yeah, I think of that a lot. Um, the story that shapeshifting came out of, it was from a chapter from the novel. When I was doing my MFA, I had 4 POV characters in this one little novel. And
Wait,
it
and
was
let
way
me
too
interrupt.
much.
You haven't
Yeah.
shared this novel with us on
Well,
WhatsApp?
Grace is it. I mean,
Oh, okay.
that's from, yeah. So finally, by like halfway through my final semester, I was like, yeah, I got to take all these 3 people out and just have it be
I see.
Grace.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it's quite a bit revised since then,
Mhm.
but yeah. So I would say yes. I mean, it's these nature soul retreats. The first time I went out to Wyoming was right after my father had died, and it was right before my 50th birthday. And I will say, like, that whole event of his passing was incredible. I was holding one hand, my mom was holding the other, and then he left. Like, and all the courage that it takes to do that. He was sitting in a chair, his whole family was around him. Like, he
Mm.
orchestrated it like the retired soldier that he was, because he was not afraid to go. He knew it was ready, it's time. So
Wow.
when you talk about porosity, like the veil was just like in shreds, like for a while. And like the very next week, I went to this retreat. So I was out there like hanging out with streams and just all of it. Um, and another time later, this was when I started helping these people do these retreats in West Virginia. It was in March. It was cold and drizzly, and I had this encounter with this triple poplar tree. I don't know what it is about poplar trees, but you see them growing together like that a lot. Like
Uh-huh.
I just saw one recently, and
Yeah.
this thing was massive. Um, and I was paying attention to it, and I was sort of, or them, I should say. um, it was just the 2 of us, or should I say the 4 of us.
Yeah.
Um, and they wanted me to take selfies of them. I mean, they were very
Oh,
clear in that request.
wow.
They were fascinated by this easy technology of a phone and curious what it would be like. So that's what I did. I took selfies of the tree, not of me.
Mm-hmm.
And it opened up all these worlds of wonder, and some of those photos are pretty amazing. um, so
Oh,
so
that's
yeah, like I want to do that more. I really don't do it as much as I should. Yeah.
yeah, I do too. I'm right there. I mean, it's I even like I started a practice of putting my water jar outside in the morning, early summer, and I was like, all of nature can speak, their voices and their sing their songs into my water, and then by the end of the day, I'll drink it, and I'll be like, all those songs will be
Oh,
inside of me, and and
wow.
then I stopped doing it. I'm like, why did I stop doing that? That's just such a wonderful invitation to let nature say what it wants to say by, because water
Right,
holds.
right.
So
Everything.
anyway, but
Yeah.
I'm with you. It's
And
like,
whether you understand it or not, right? You can just trust
right.
that there's something there. And I
Mhm.
mean, I'm almost like I miss 99.9% of the messages that are coming to me.
Yeah, I
But
know. Yeah. It's, there's that part of me that's like, why are we so stupid when we're awake? And then when we're
mhm,
sleeping, all of this information comes through and it's like,
so true.
why are we preserving that for when we're sleeping? And then when I wake
Yeah.
up, it's just, what am I going to have for breakfast?
Right, right. Oh, I had such a cool dream. Oh, I forgot what it was.
Yeah.
Oh well. Let me just watch a little Colbert instead.
Yeah, exactly. Julie, you are such a cool woman. I knew you were, but like this is just so awesome to finally get to like dig more deeply into you. And I feel like your journey on Substack is just beginning. I feel like the offering that you have there and the voice that you share is very unique. And
Mm,
it's just a matter of
thanks.
time before more people will flock to it because it's very special. I want to
Mm,
end with just a couple notes from you about what this is writing Flux has taught you about your own place in the climate struggle. How do we move forward
mm.
with where we're at right now? Because it's destructive and it's painful, but there is still hope.
Yeah, thanks for again, thanks so much for inviting me. It's been a while. Feel like we should be in person having some tea, but that would be like a 3 hour conversation probably, at
All
least.
right, we'll
But
do
that's
that
fine.
someday.
Someday, yeah. I think, I mentioned earlier, I love research. I like knowing things, but that's also learning and discovery. A lot of that is solitary pursuits. And um, I of course, like part of that is reading about all these committed activists that are out there on the front lines and marching, and organizations that are out there demanding sanity in public policy and in our energy system. So I can sort of at least take comfort in them through that. But ultimately, I think that what this project has taught me is that the way forward is never going to be through my own store of knowledge or intellectual engagement or problem solving. It's really through the imagination and through an emotional entanglement with beautiful, with the living world,
Mm,
and especially through relationship and community, and um, bringing curiosity and creativity to that. And all of that is my plan. If you can have a plan for the act 3 of my novel, which is it'll be happening. I guess there's two more chapters we have
mm.
to we have to suffer through. And I think I'm a little terrified to write. I mean, I have some of it written and some of it is sketched out, but I'm also worried because, like I said earlier, I don't want us to be a bunch of answers, or like, okay, things are bad, but like if we just do all these things, they'll be fine, you know. But I like the idea of signposts too, like there are some
Mhm.
beautiful, beloved communities out there. Community gardens. There's one in Baltimore that I have modeled. Uh, it's actually, well, it's not even. It is the one that's in my book in Curtis Bay.
Mm,
That exists, and it's a lot of what goes on there is really what goes on there. So a lot of that stuff gives me hope. So
mm.
I think if anything, I'm just, I'm like all in on cultivating hope in
Yeah,
whatever way we can,
yeah,
knowing the realities of what we face.
yeah.
And it's just it's lovely to be with other people and to hash it out together.
Yeah, sharing those emotions together. I think
Yeah.
that is something that you absolutely do and encourage in your writing. Bill McKibben's Sunday is this
Oh yeah.
Sunday. That's
Yeah.
and I just read like Portland is doing a huge event. There's over 500 events scheduled all over the country
Hmm.
to celebrate the power of the sun. And it's
Mm,
just awesome that this
mm.
is happening. Those are some of the places where I feel like um, good things are happening,
Yeah,
even
yeah,
in a
yeah.
very destructive climate.
Right. I mean, we sure. It's all too easy to focus on all the bad things.
Yeah.
And I do it sometimes just for sport. It's like, 'cause I like to get all mad,
Yeah.
but
Oh my gosh. I am so looking
we're
forward to
better than
reading the
that.
last where you take this. And I know it's
Mm,
gonna, you're gonna live the questions as you wrap it all up. And it's an extraordinary novel. I hope that it actually can get picked up and so I can have it in my hands
me
someday.
too.
And it deserves to be out there. And I'm rooting for Grace as I am rooting for you.
Mm,
So thank
thank
you,
you. Thank
Julie.
you. Thanks, Kim. This has been wonderful.